All right, we are here for issue 6 of Ultimate Spider-Man. I don't know if this is where the first trade is going to cut off or what,
It
but
is where the
we
first trade is going to cut
okay.
off, actually. Yeah.
This is let's talk about that as a good cutting off point. I am Vactor. I am a Spider-Man fanatic. I'm here with Super Tim. How you doing today, Tim?
Great, great. I'm excited to talk about this issue. And my question for you, Vector, is how mad are you?
Ooh, this is a quote from the issue Ultimate Spider-Man number 6. If you haven't read it, we are going to be spoiling it. We're going to be talking all about it. And spoiler alert, it's good. So go read it and come back, and we're going to talk all about it. Let's talk about Spider-Man's costume, Tim. We hadn't seen it in the last 2 issues. When was the last
Mm-hmm.
time we saw this?
It might
Issue
have been
3?
three. Might have been issue
Yeah.
three. Yeah, because issue
Okay,
four was the dinner, and issue five was the secret origin of Green Goblin.
yes. The Pico suit that Tony designed, it's got kind of like a nanotech type of
Mm-hmm.
it can form, different molecules on top of him. So, what are you thinking at this point, 6 issues in, Tim, of Ultimate Spider-Man?
I love it. I seriously love it. It's like right now, this and Nightwing are like two of my favorite comic books right now. And like as soon as it drops on my Kindle at 10 p.m. on a Tuesday night, I'm reading it, and I was not disappointed in this issue at all. The entire book has been fantastic. Some things come to roost in this issue that I was really liking, and I've really liked how the family dynamic has been. I'm really interested about how things are going to shake with Uncle Ben because he was not in this issue. Uncle Ben and Jameson were not in this issue. So yeah, I've been really loving it, and it's funny you talk about the costume is I like the spider design on on the costume. It very much harkens back into those very early comics from the 60s. So I really enjoyed that.
Man, I am loving this also. Actually, somebody was asking me what my favorite comic book is right now that's coming out, and I said Ultimate Spider-Man, hands down. There was no competition. It is I'm also enjoying Nightwing a lot, but Ultimate Spider-Man is my current favorite book that's coming out. And I think once we have the full run of this Hickman, whatever it is turns out to be, we are going to be in for a treat because I think he's slowly laying down these pieces, and issue
Uh-huh.
by issue we're enjoying it, and I think it's going to add up to the sum of its parts is going to add up to a greater whole. We are going to really enjoy this once we take a step back and look at the macro instead of the micro. I think we're really going to have a good time. But I was right there with you, man. This issue, Mary Jane finds out that he's Spider-Man. All of
Yes.
the children know now instead of just May, and this is how it should be. Like, we're starting to get to that status quo of Peter Parker that we're used to in the 616, where Mary Jane is in on it, and like we're used to him being able to confide in her for the longest time. And so I really liked this dynamic of the family, of him being a family man, having 2 kids. Is something that is very relatable, I think, to a lot of us. You, our friend Shaw, we have a lot of things that we like about this, and being a father and fatherhood. Ultimate Spider-Man is providing us something that we hadn't seen necessarily before. We had the alternate MCU two, where or MCU, the MC2, the Marvel
Spider
Comics.
Girl.
Yes, Mayday Parker. She
Hmm.
grows up to be a Spider Girl, and that's really the only time we've seen him as a father for the most part. So this is providing another take on that, Peter being a father, and so far it's him being a fun guy, and you can tell that he cares about his family, he cares about his wife and his children. But also on that fun-loving note, we got to see him do some quips as Spider-Man, fighting
Yes.
the Kingpin. So
He's been working on his quips for the past several issues, and it's been a little rusty, but I really liked yeah, before I get into that though, I wanted to mention because you mentioned that MC2 we saw Peter being a father, but also because my son and I just watched Across the Spider Verse this week, in the theaters,
Yes,
his
yes,
first time, and he loved it. So, but we got to see Peter B. Parker,
yes,
be
yes.
a father, and his daughter was named May, just like in this book and in that book, and and, and nicknamed Mayday. So that was really a nice nod to that. So, but I really loved the quip about how he's, like the Kingpin is like beating down on Harry, and he's like, "You're all alone," and Spidey's like, "Alone? Seriously? Did you miss me in the red and blue suit?"
That was great. And that's classic Peter Parker
Uh huh.
humor. And
Yeah.
that was something that I may have talked about on this show before or another show that I was on. That's something that the Tobey Maguire Spider-Man was really missing to me was the humor and the quips. And that's something that the Andrew Garfield Spider-Man, it really felt more at home to me of who Spider-Man is, because that's a huge part of his character. So yeah, I'm loving that we're starting to get that more and more in this version of Spider-Man. I'm loving it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And about those quips, I remember when I was, first reading Spider-Man comics, when I was, 12 or 13. Uh and I read a Wizard magazine and a Wizard, yeah, remember Wizard Vactor?
Oh man. Dang.
Oh, deep cut. But I remember reading a Wizard where he called Spider-Man the Jerry Seinfeld of superheroes.
Ah, yeah.
And I
Yes.
couldn't agree more, because you just, like, you can have these canon events, as Spider Verse calls it. These things that Spider-Man goes through. The death of Uncle Ben, being bitten by a spider, falling in love with Mary Jane, and all these things. But if he doesn't have those quips, he's not the fun Spider-Man, because that's really what separates Spider-Man from any different kind of superhero. Because we have these teenage superheroes in other comics, but what makes Spidey so unique is he knows he's way in over his head fighting these bad guys because he's a teenager, and he's just like, you know what? I'm going to annoy them to death so that they are diverted and not trying to kill me. And so, yeah, I've always loved that about Spider-Man.
Yeah,
Um,
man. There's some great stuff going on. Also, besides the Pico suit, we got the Spider Sense for the first time. I talked about it
yes.
going way back to the first issue of this comic. And now that that's out of the way, now that the Spider Sense has been revealed, the only thing I'm left with questioning is, where did he get his webs from? Is that something that
Hmm.
is organic? Does it come from the suit? So that is my only lingering question now that I have. So once they answer that, then I'm okay. Shoff is in our chat right now. We have a chat on Riverside as we're recording this, a live chat, and he was asking, where is the healing factor? I think they said that he heals faster, but not like Wolverine. Like, he doesn't
Right.
have a specific healing factor. I think it's accelerated healing. So we saw his face all messed up, which is actually kind of funny because you and I, Tim, were talking off mic and shop about our some TV shows that we watch all the time. Martin is one that came up for me. And just yesterday, I was watching an episode where Martin was in a boxing match, and at the end of the episode, he comes out in a huge prosthetic face. And it looks like Peter Parker's face in this issue, where he's got a big black eye, his face is kind of stretched out a little. It's all for comedic effect, but it reminded me of that when I saw Peter's face in this first panel here, this first part of the issue. And I love the kind of flashback. We've been getting this over and over throughout these first 6 issues,
Yeah.
playing with the timeline, playing with
Hmm.
memories and flashbacks and things like that. So I like the way that Hickman is structuring this. And we also forgot to mention at the very top of the show, Tim, Marco Cicchetto back on the art, which this team is cooking. They're hitting on all
Yes.
cylinders. Hickman and Cicchetto, man, I just love this team, and I hope that they get to have a long run, because we've already seen, even in this first arc, in this first 6 issues, there's been a guest artist. So I'm hoping Cicchetto can hit his deadlines as soon as possible, and keep it up, because we are loving this, and it gives us a visual change. Like, we know this is a different Spider-Man, we know it's a different universe. His art is kind of becoming solidifying as, oh, I have a visual cue that this is a different universe. Same with Ultimate Spider-Man in the 2000s with Mark Bagley, like I associated his art with that
Hmm.
Peter from that
Yeah.
universe. That's how I'm starting to get with Chichetto, so I'm hoping that we can keep that up. What do you think about the Kingpin in this issue? It's revealed that he has some type of alterations, he's got some type of
Yeah.
markings or tattoos.
Yeah.
What do you think
Like
about the Kingpin?
that I'm 50-50 on this because I really like the Kingpin being like, bulky and like its physical strength, kind of like, he was in, the Daredevil show
Mhm. Right.
where it's just peak physical. But we've also established that there's been kind of a shift between with the Ultimate Universe, how people are getting this technology. And so and with the Green Goblin being in armor, Kingpin would probably need to up his game and need to decide, hey, I need to be on the same playing field as all these other like thugs and superheroes that are coming on the scene. And so it makes sense. But I do like the physicality of the Kingpin, but he still has that. It's just up to the ninth degree.
Right, and I wanna know exactly what type of augmentations he's
Right.
had. Um, I also thought that panel was interesting with Harry, where after the Kingpin punches him and he's on the ground, and it looks like he's scared. Like, all of his confidence that he had, because so far we've seen this super confident Harry Osborn up to this point, and he's, like, cowering on the ground at that he's really scared of the Kingpin. At first, I thought it was kinda like a ploy, like playing possum, but it seems like he was actually really scared, that he might die or, might be physically injured, to a great extent. So, I'm interested, to see how Harry's character still plays out because I'm like 50-50 on this ultimate Harry, where it's
Yeah.
like he could be a nice guy, he could be a good guy, but we've already seen he's got some Norman in him. He's got some
Hmm.
shadiness that he's willing to do things. He's willing to break the law, which we saw Peter in this one. He's like, "Hey, I've never broken a law before in my life." So I'm
I
interested to
really,
see how
I
this
really
plays
love the
out.
banter with the breaking the law thing. It was really funny because he's just and Harry's like, "We're gonna break in, we're gonna do this," and he's like, "But isn't that breaking and entering? That's against the law. I can't do that." And Harry, like you said, he's got that Norman side to him, saying like it's a necessary evil. And then they finally break in, and Kingpin's waiting for him, and Harry just looks at Peter and says, "See, it was fine. We were expected. We didn't break in. It's fine." I really like
Yes.
that banter. And then after the flashback is over, and young little Richard Parker says, "But Daddy, you broke into somebody's house. Isn't that against the law?" He said, "Yes, that's what I've been saying." I really
Yeah,
like that.
that just shows you Hickman has a great take on Spider-Man. Like, he understands the
Hmm.
character of Peter Parker through and through, and so I just feel like we're in good hands with Hickman because not only, we've seen him before in countless times just take us on a trip with Fantastic Four, the Avengers. There's so many things that he's done, X-Men, and now he's kind of
Yeah.
doing it in the Spider-Man universe. But he knows what he's doing. He's got a good grip or grasp on the character of Peter Parker. So I'm really enjoying this. Um,
Yes, Shoff Hickman is God. It's true. um,
there's yeah,
what I like
there's
what
some great
Hickman's
stuff.
been doing with this book, because you mentioned Fantastic Four, Avengers, X-Men. Those were all like huge, epic books, and I really like that he's kind. Even with Gods, Gods, like it's a team, and he's been mostly you know in the team dynamic. Like I said at the start of this book, I'm like, okay, where's my character chart? Because that's something I've come to expect
Right.
from Hickman with
Yes.
Avengers and X-Men and even Fantastic Four. But here he's doing a little bit more of a personal story, and it feels more personal. And it might be personal to Hickman. I don't know. Like maybe this is just something he wanted to tell a Spider-Man who is a family man. And like that was when I heard about Ultimate Spider-Man, I'm like, okay, Hickman could be good. But then when I heard, oh yeah, it's gonna be he's married to Mary Jane and has two children when he starts being Spider-Man, I was like, okay, now first you had my curiosity, now you have my attention. And so
Yes.
that's been a wonderful thing. And the start of this issue with the black eye that he has, and Mary Jane and the kids like, how did you get that black eye? And I love what he says. He says, well, that old Parker Luck, which I loved that callback to Dan Slott, and some of his Spider-Man stories. And so that was a really cool thing. And it just solidifies, I think we've said it on this podcast multiple times, Peter Parker is a terrible liar.
Yes, 100%.
like did you get that at the bugles? Like, yeah, I tripped and and MJ's like, okay, how did you really get it? And then, we get to the main story, and it was like, okay, like I looked at MJ's just like, listen, honey, you're a bad liar. I know you're a bad liar. So just cut the crap and tell me what happened. I
Yes.
love that. I love that.
It's great. All of the family dynamics and
Mm-hmm.
relationship building between everyone in this book. But Peter and Harry, MJ and Peter, Uncle Ben and JJJ, like all these characters, everyone's interdynamics and relationships are fantastic. Hickman is doing a great job of kind of spinning all these plates. And again, that's why I think you and I both love this book, and Schaff does as well. The Each storyline is interesting. There's no story where it switches over to, and I'm like, when are we going to get back to the previous one? Like everyone is interesting, and whatever his grand story is, it feels like this is the ultimate universe right now in 2024. This book is the ultimate universe. I've read Ultimate Black Panther, Ultimate X-Men. I haven't finished Ultimate Avengers yet, but or is it the Ultimates?
It's the Ultimates.
It's Ultimates. I haven't
Because
finished that one
Avengers
yet,
is
but
Ultimates, yeah.
yes. Did you read that one? Did you finish that one?
I didn't start the new one yet.
Okay.
I'm
The other ones
waiting.
don't feel like they're a shared universe, and that's what
Mm-hmm.
Schaff was talking about, where he wasn't really engaging with Ultimate X-Men at first and Ultimate Black Panther at first. He said he's kind of come around on it as he's been going through it,
Sure.
but to me right now, those books feel like they're separate. They feel like they're on their own,
Sure.
and they're each fine. They're not bad, but this one feels like a new universe to me. It feels like this is the ultimate universe. And so that's what kind of
Mm-hmm.
has me excited. And I'm hoping Ultimate ties in a little bit more because that one has Tony Stark in it. I think just the nature of the story itself, I think it has to. But
Right.
I'm interested to see where all of these things diverge and how long are they going to stick around, because that was something with the original Ultimate line where they had Ultimate X-Men, Ultimate Fantastic Four, Ultimate Spider-Man, Ultimates. Each one of them had their own trajectories where some lasted longer than others. Ultimates had kind of like a mini series vibe where it's like, okay,
Mm-hmm.
six issues, and they were done. It was like Ultimates 1, Ultimates 2, Ultimates 3. Ultimate Spider-Man was the workhorse of the Ultimate Universe.
Yeah.
That's the one that lasted 100 and whatever issues,
And we're
whatever it
still
was.
seeing the effects of it even now because the Ultimate Spider-Man book introduced Miles Morales.
Yes.
And now Miles Morales has become a household name as much as Peter
Right.
Parker with the
And the
Spider-Verse
only
movies.
things that lasted from that universe were Miles Morales and the Maker, which was Ultimate Reed Richards. So he came from the Ultimate Fantastic Four
Yeah.
book. And like you said, they're still making an impact today. So yeah, I'm interested to see where this goes. In the next issue, they showed a preview. Schaff was commenting in our chat about the half Spidey, half Green
Mm-hmm.
Goblin. And what has me interested about that image is it looks like it's analyzing the suits of each one and
Right.
kind of pointing out the features of, okay, here's the Mark IV, here's the Picotech. And me as a technology guy, I think I've told you this before. Back to the Future 2 was always my favorite one growing up out of the three because it was the future and it was about
Right.
technology. So I've always
Right.
been, even from a kid, I like the Jetsons over the Flintstones. I just
Mm-hmm.
like technology and looking forward and looking ahead. So the Pico suit really has me interested. The Mark IV is cool also, but I like that Pico tech, and I want to see where it goes. And tell me about the webbing. Where are the webs coming from? Are they coming out of his
Right.
butt? Are they coming out of the suit? Tell me. I want to know. So
I think it really is part of the suit because he
okay.
did it before. I don't think it's organic. I don't think we're going back to that well from the
He
2000s.
doesn't talk about having to replace cartridges or
Right,
like replace webbing, but he didn't talk about the spider sense, up until this point. So
right.
I
Well,
I
maybe the
hope
spider
Hickman
sense
gives us
didn't
something.
exist until because like it didn't exist until now
It's like a
because
trauma.
yeah, because like when it happened, he's like, "Wait a minute, something's going to happen. Something's wrong." And then the cage comes down, and like, oh, and so now that he knows this exists, he can utilize it in in different scenarios. Or it's like, okay, now I know I have this spider sense that warns me of danger. I can react to that danger. So yeah, and going back to the family stuff, I really liked I really loved where where MJ's like, okay, where did you really get it? And May just blurts out, it's because dad's a superhero. She stops herself, but the damage is already
Yes.
done. As with children, they say those things and you're just like, I'm sorry, what? What did you just say?
Yes.
um
As
and
my child is now trying to talk to me. I think this is a great stepping stone so far. And like I said, it just hitting on all cylinders. They haven't had a
yeah,
bad issue so far,
yeah,
and I'm really curious to see what story Hickman is telling overall.
yeah.
Any closing thoughts on this issue?
That last panel, where we get, I think the scene that we've all been waiting for, when it finally comes out to the family that hey, Peter Parker is Spider-Man, and we get, we think there's going to be like, oh my gosh, we're going to split up because you kept this from me and stuff like that, and you know, we don't need more MJ and Peter apartness because we have that enough in the main books. Um, but I really like that she says, I'm not mad, I'm just upset. And like I liked that MJ said, "Are you okay? Are we okay? Like, are we safe? Like, are we safe while you're doing this?" And her seeing the suit was awesome, and her naming Spider-Man was awesome to me. I really liked that kind of. This is like a new canon event now. And like MJ naming Spider-Man just felt right. And also it reminded me of how in every Superman medium, Lois Lane is always the one to give Superman his moniker. And so I really liked that. And it was a great way. Yeah, like Shaw said, felt so good. Felt so good. I loved it. Loved it. It was a great way to end the issue. And I'm like, all right. Like it felt like a nice bookend to these 6 issues, which is going to be the trade, and the trade is called Ultimate Spider-Man Married with Children.
Oh,
um, and so yeah, it was a great bookend, great book. Hickman is killing it.
yeah, everything is clicking and hitting on all cylinders. So I'm looking forward to see where it's going. I hope you are as well. We are interested to see what your thoughts are. Leave them in the comments down below. Are we going to find out the webs? Are we going to find out more about that? We are curious, but we love to hear your thoughts each and every week here on This Comic Cooks.